Oh, did we send out the link?
Hi everyone, welcome to the Murali End. Yes, we have sent out the link, Dom. Don't worry, I've been tweeting it. It's in the WhatsApp group. If you're in the WhatsApp group or the channel and you've got it, share it with your other friends and your family. We are days away from Sri Lanka hosting a World Cup, and they have just lost the second T20I in quite spectacularly bad fashion. Sri Lanka made 189 for 5. It was a rain affected day. England needed to make 172 to win, I think it was. They did not make 173 for 4 off a rain affected match. There was a lot going on in today's game. There was a lot of positives in the batting. There was a lot of positives in the bowling until the rain delayed. Then we came out and it all kind of fell apart. My name's Mark Machado. I'm joined by Dominic Machado, who's across the pond, and Nicholas Brooks, who's Sri Lanka's #1 cricket historian, who, like me, is in London as well. We'll open up the back end, and you guys can come and vent. You guys can come and tell us what you think. I will play the intro eventually as well. But yeah, leave us comments to begin with. Much changed outlook. Oh, yeah. I was going to say outlook. Much changed style of batting today, Nick. Or maybe it just all worked and clicked.
Yeah, I think, look, Pavan Ratnayake has been a real find for Sri Lanka in white ball cricket, hasn't he? Another really good innings today. And I thought what was positive on the whole was that when Sri Lanka lost wickets, they didn't let it hurt their momentum too much. The big caveat to that would be when Kusal got out around that 12th over mark and Sri Lanka got really tied down by spin. I actually think that, look, they didn't bowl great after the rain delay, but I think where this game was lost was how the two sides approached batting against spin. I think you can't let Will Jacks get through 4 overs for 24 on a pitch like that. I think there has to be a bit of a talk amongst the group about their method, how they're going to attack top class spin. And we saw it again today with Shanaka struggling to pick Rashid's googly. That's been a problem for a lot of Sri Lanka's batters like all tour long, right?
I mean, can I just jump in there, Mark? The Shanaka versus Rashid. The ball was also spinning so slowly off the wicket, and he was bowling it in the low 60s, high 70s, and he had just gone 2 leg breaks. You had to know the googly was coming there. And can we just also talk about the decision? So Kusal's wicket falls, and they send in Shanaka ahead of Asalanka. And 2 things, right? First, left hand, right hand matchup. Asalanka's a left-hander. Obviously, you favor him a little bit more against leg spin, but also Dawson has always struggled to pick leg spin. He has always struggled against wrist spin, and it was a horror show.
It's quite something, our struggles against spin, right? So coming into this game, the kind of thoughts are Sri Lanka have a good bowling unit. If we can kind of put, like, if the top 3 get runs, we're kind of could be in a decent enough position. We saw the top 3 make starts and get runs, and then Pavan Ratnayake, given an opportunity at 4 today, comes in and really grabs it. I thought was quite, rode his luck a little bit, but was quite exciting to watch. Kind of does what we wanted him to do in terms of showing intent, etc., etc., etc. The rest of, it's like, I think you could skin Charth Asalanka's innings whichever way you kind of want to do. If you're in the whole he deserves this place, he should be in this 11 camp, he has something to offer, then I think you can say, look, he kind of dug himself out for a hole today. If you don't think Charth Asalanka deserves to be in 11, then you could look and say, right, he got 28 runs with a strike rate at 127 at points, and for a couple of overs actually kind of potentially held us back, and he might have been a difference between us getting 200 or not. You can also look at Liardagay coming in. I mean, whatever you think of Liardagay's batting, we needed his bowling today. We'll get onto the bowling in a bit as well. And then you kind of come away thinking 189 is a fairly decent score on this deck. It's a deck that it's our home deck, so presumably we're all right bowling on it. We start kind of a little bit loose, kind of that's all right. First over, Patarana, you're like, they're trying something new. Paterano is going to develop into a bowler that can bowl at any stage in the game and can get wickets at will, right? We're watching him in real time have to learn how to bowl in the power play. Second bowl in the power play, Dustin Sharnaker. You're kind of thinking, all right, this might be the weak link, but he kind of gets through it. He's all right. And then I feel the kind of wheels just start to come off. Like, Ishan Malinga gets injured second or third ball after the rain break. When Indu Hasaranga, he's meant to be our kind of wicket taker. He's not having a great series thus far. I can kind of live with that. Well, Alagay, I think at this point, we're just asking too much of him. And I kind of look at this 11, I just think the balance of the team is wrong all over the place. I don't know what you kind of feel about that, Nick.
I totally agree, Marky. I think Sri Lanka have to be braver and pick another bowler. Like we saw today, Hasaranga and Walalage didn't bat. I thought actually when Dasan came in would have been a nice time for Hasaranga to bat because you knew that England were going to have to bowl a lot of spin, right? Yeah, for me, whether it's another seamer or whether it's Theeks plus Wani and Walalage, I think they've got to go with 5 outright bowlers. Sharnaker did get through it today, but I don't think him bowling 2 overs in the power play consistently is a recipe for success. And yeah, a little bit concerning the way Hasaranga has gone since he's come back into the side. To me today, didn't look like he had a great deal of action on the ball. And like I would like to see kind of a comparison between how many revs Rashid is putting on as opposed to Wani at the moment, because it all just looked a bit kind of, I don't know, just a bit gentle and too many long hops, right?
Yep.
Today I felt like after what we saw 5 spinners in action today, and I thought Hasaranga looked the least at home on this deck, which is absolutely unbelievable because he's shrunken.
I think though that the England were clearly went out to be really, really positive against the spinners, right? Which Sri Lanka just didn't do, and that makes a big, big difference. I was saying to Dom before we came on, Butler and Banton have used that little reverse sweep where you just chip it over the infielder so well as an escape valve. And I think some of the Sri Lankan batters could do with thinking a bit more about their method. I'm not talking about Kusal and Patham here, but some of the guys lower down I think need to work out how they're going to score runs against spin.
Yeah, it's I think even Patham, I want to be a little critical of him today because they, Archer leaked runs early, and then I forget who the other bowler was who took the new ball. Sam Curran also leaked runs, and so then they brought on Jackson Dawson in the power play, and they played them basically at a run a ball. You can't do that. You've got to at least put some pressure on. I don't even mind if you lose a wicket putting pressure on them, but you cannot allow them to go at 6 or 7 and over. In the power play against your best batters, because that's not going to pay off. I think the other thing that Nick is kind of alluding to here that is really frustrating is Patham, Kamil, and Kusal should be able to play aggressively and freely because that's when they play best. But they cannot, because when those wickets go down, there is no faith that the lower order or the middle order can do anything. So someone like Kusal has to, against Adil Rashid, he's got to score the boundaries, rotate the strike, and not lose his wicket. It's a lot. It's a lot to ask for any player. And I think basically the formula is you need one of those guys to get 80 plus in order to get a big score on the board. Otherwise, it's simply not going to happen. Pawan Ratnayaka, I think, was an interesting play today. He still has to develop his skills as a T20 player. He struggled to find some release shots against spin. He was premeditating a lot. Can't really hit down the ground yet. But despite all that, he showed really good intent, and he played at 4 the way we want our 4 to play. And again, I've said this time and time again, it's not our fault if we use players in the wrong position. It's not the player's fault if they're used in the wrong positions or at the wrong times. And I'll bring up too, Leonagate coming in with 2 balls left. You think that Hasaranga is the guy you want to kind of give it a whack for those last 2 balls, but they didn't want to use him.
Yeah, I mean, overall, my kind of wider read of this game is that we think that Sri Lanka's issues are with the bat and not being able to score quickly enough. The reality is, at this stage, close to a World Cup, they're not suddenly going to put on two scores of well into the 200s, right? Getting to around 200 is like a good score for us for where we're at. Against England, that's probably not enough. Against India, that's probably not going to be enough. Against, we're still at a stage, I think, where if we finish our 20 overs and if we're around 1.5 boundaries per over, I think we would consider that a good innings, right? I think England, you look at them and they're kind of pushing close to like 3 boundaries and over, right? Our strike rate, our boundary finding rate is just way too low for the bigger sides. I think almost the more shocking thing today is how bad our bowling was. I mean, that 11 basically leaves you with no slack whatsoever. When Isham Malinga goes down,
yep,
right, and bless him, Lianagate should never be in a position where he's bowling the last over of a T20 game. I have no idea how that's happening, especially when there's only 17 overs to bowl. Guys, what we're going to do is we will kind of reconfigure our whole setup now to take your calls, or you can come on and join us if you haven't done so before. If you're just finding the Murali End, we talk about Sri Lankan cricket after every single game. Do subscribe, do find us on social media as well and follow us across that, particularly Instagram. That's what we're trying to grow at the moment. If you want to come in and have a chat with us, all you need to do is click on the link I'm now sending into, or I thought I'd sent into the chat. And now I will play the intro, and then when we come back, we should be ready to give you guys space to come on and vent, or maybe there's something we're missing, and maybe it was actually a good performance and we're being a bit harsh. I don't know. Back in a moment.
It's the Murali End, you're the place to be. Analyze the players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's the Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we, when mad it's them. It's the same place, the Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we gon' represent. So tell a friend.
Welcome back. Nick, have we over-egged this cake? Or Sri Lanka just not that good? Do we just not have the players to beat the more established cricket sides?
I still feel like this team does have the potential when it fires. I think we're still looking at the lower middle order as the problem area, right? Again, today, I mean, I think Sri Lanka were pretty much 100 for 1 after 10 overs. How many sides from that position are looking to push on towards 220, 230, 240? Instead, like, we get 190 after actually quite a good back end because of those, 12, 13, 14, such quiet overs. I don't think you can afford that. I'm really excited about Pathirana as, the new package that we're seeing coming in at front and back end. But there are going to be days when it doesn't go quite right? When he's bowling that fast, there isn't a huge margin for error. We saw it with like that first over, a couple wide. Josh Buttler just lent on them. But I think you look the way the two sides approach spin was drastically different. But you've got to give your hats off, right, to Harry Brook, Tom Banton. I thought England batted really well, to be fair to them.
I mean, I think Harry Brook, those 2 sixes he hit against Pathirana before he got him out were just, I mean, those were laser bullets that just came off the bat. So that great batting to them there. But again, you see the difference, as you said, intent in playing spin, intent in playing in general. I think that was what was missing. And I wonder what the thought process is when they watch England bat and how they approach the game. Even someone like Sam Curran, right, he's the size of a Sri Lankan batter, right? And we're not talking about Harry Brook, right? We can't say that Sri Lanka has guys like Harry Brook sitting around in the locker room, but still taking on, whoever it is, going down the ground, being aggressive and attacking. And to be honest, I also think it's a waste what they're doing with Hasaranga as a batter. They have someone who, having a top draw bowler who can bat as well is one of the biggest advantages you have in T20 cricket. It allows you to balance your side. It allows you to play an additional bowler. It allows you to do so many things. But the fact that we aren't making use of that, or even someone like Dunith Walalage, who again can bat and can bowl, instead we prefer guys who can bowl just a little bit rather than a lot. And we're gonna pay a big price against some of these teams if we end up only playing 4 bowlers. Dawson was fine today, but I think that's a big problem too. Obviously, the wet ball, we have to talk about that. It was not easy to bowl, and I thought that's what made Matisha's spell in the second bit really impressive, because with his bowling style, that's a bar of soap that's just slipping out of his hands. So.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of comments I want to bring up. You're obviously welcome to join us. Click the link on the side. Maybe this is the day, Sanuda, that you come and join us. I don't know. Kissel is the reason why we got to 189. He stayed there till Rashid's third over, scored runs against the spinners as well. If Dustin Janeth had to bat at least 2 overs from Rashid, we are cooked. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking so long about our issues with spin bowling, and the fact that so many of our batters are still struggling against it. To me, it just makes kind of like, what are these guys doing? Like you've seen over the last 2, 3, 4 years, we've seen Patterson and we've seen Kussel upskill themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be. I think it's fair as fans that we're frustrated that other players aren't doing that and are just kind of leaning into their strengths. I don't get it. This is another comment I want to bring up from Nitin. This team should have been playing for the last 12 months. It's too late now. This team just felt a lot more positive, right? Pavan Ratnayaka, you can tell he's very early on in his career. As I said earlier, he rode his luck a little bit today, Nick, but he scored runs. And, with Nas, he's the kind of player of this England tour from a Sri Lanka perspective, right?
Yeah, and like he showed the power of positivity and intent, right? You don't necessarily have to have all the skills of like Surya Kumar Yadav to score at a decent strike rate. It's just like a mindset thing. Something else I wanted to touch on there, I don't know if you guys agree, but I felt like, look, Patirana gets that wicket last ball of the first over, and then Dasson bringing himself on to bowl the next just seems to me like a really negative move. And it's that same thing, like trying to sneak in his over when we've just taken a wicket. Whereas, like, don't we want to see Sri Lanka at that stage saying, let's get like let's have England 2 down after 2 overs, and then we're like really in the driver's seat.
Well, Nick, I think also part of that is their failure to plan, because I was looking at this and thinking, who is going to bowl in the power play?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, right?
Right? You drop Mahesh Theekshana. He's the one guy who has consistently bowled in the power play in this side. And the fact that you can go into a T20 without a kind of clear plan as like, okay, this is the new ball. Let's actually try to use it to get wickets, right? Like that is basic cricket 101. And this is not the first time they did that. I remember maybe it was against Zimbabwe where they had both Dushan Hemantha and Monindu Hasaranga bowl in the opening slot. I'm hoping that Dushmantha Chamira will come in and do some of this. Obviously, Patirana being able to bowl at the front end is helpful, but I agree with you that bringing on Dawson was not the right move there, but they were already set up to fail by the choice they made before the toss to play these guys. I want to bring up one thing kind of adjacent to this is Mark, you were talking about playing spin. They had a stat today about teams and how well they've played spin at home since July 2024, basically since the last World Cup. Only Zimbabwe has a lower runs per over than Sri Lanka, and only they have a lower average against spin than we do. We average.
Hold on, let me bring that. I should be able to bring it up. He says you should be able to bring it up. If you give me one moment, here we go.
Yeah,
nice.
Do you want to talk through that, Dom? Then.
Yeah, I mean, they showed this on the broadcast. It just shows you how bad Sri Lanka has been batting at home against spin. Right? These are their home conditions. This is what they should know how to handle, but they are barely striking at like 110 against spin at home. And they're not scoring runs either. It is really, really, really poor from players who have grown up playing on these wickets. And right now, honestly, it seems like the only batter who can play spin is Kusal Mendes. And if he doesn't, they're really going to struggle. And it's one of those things that's petrifying and frustrating to see. And I mean, and again, sorry, I'll add one more little bit. You see how both Pakistan and Bangladesh have remade their lineups to be much bigger hitting sides. And we play Bangladesh and Pakistan so often. You'd think we'd maybe take notice from the fact that these teams have been doing increasingly better against us, that maybe we need to switch up the way we play. I was glad Pawan played well today, but he's played the exact same number of T20s as Vishen Halumbage. Their strike rates coming into this match, Pawan Ratnayaka has a career strike rate in T20s of 100. Vishen Halumbage has a career strike rate of 160. So at least if you're keeping Halumbage out because he's inexperienced, that's one thing. But if you're bringing in Pawan, why don't you give a guy who actually is a natural born T20 player a chance?
I mean, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to discuss there with this squad. As always, there was another comment that I wanted to bring up. This is something we would talk about in the WhatsApp channel as well. Carl 6GQ has said Char should be dropped for Kamindu. Should I release to the world a couple of 11s that I kind of suggested could work? Let me hold on. Let me also. The other thing we've got to consider is someone had asked about Isham Malinga's injury. We don't have any updates on that unless you guys have seen something that I haven't seen.
No, it didn't look great though live, did it?
No, it didn't look great at all. I've just brought up the World Cup squad that came out today. I mean, this was tweeted out by the Papare, who are rights holders, so I assume they've got some information that suggests that this is the actual squad. These were I'll show you a potential 11 I talked through. This is obviously dependent on what's happened today. Was Patum, Kamil, Kusal, Mendes, Pavan, Weller, Kamindu, Dasan, Wani, Chamira, Malinga, Patharana. So that would be without Chawarth in it. Kind of pre-Pavan's excellence today, or if you want to call it excellence, the 11 I'd gone with, which was kind of what I suggested would be kind of my 11, if I can find that now, was going to be, this is the 11 I would like to see Sri Lanka play, though I think it's now almost impossible to drop Pavan. Patum, Kamil, Kusal, Weller, Kamindu, Dasan, Wani, Theeks, Chamira, Malinga, and Patharana. Obviously, Kamindu Mendes is not in the England squad, so he cannot play. So they cannot have that 11 for the next game. Yeah, I just want to know what your guys' takes on it. I mean, so much has happened since the squad has come out with the game. We haven't even got round to the fact that DDS has been dropped from the whole setup as well.
Yeah, the whole DDS thing is a complete shit show, isn't it? I guess if there's like one kind of slight kindness you can give the selectors, it's that it's hard to pick a team when you don't have like a stable domestic system, so you're basically just picking names out of a hat. But it's objectively ridiculous. I like the first team you gave, Marky. I think I'd be drawn to something like that, especially given the shoulder injury Theeks in for Malinga. I still think Theeks has a real role to play for Sri Lanka. I think he's another player who's been badly mismanaged, and we've seen his career kind of go backwards because of it.
Yeah.
So someone asked if this is the real squad. Well, I don't. This is what I've seen on the internet, which multiple people are tweeting. So and posting. So I assume it's real. Kamindu was seen practicing today with the squad, says Charith.
Is that you, Charith? We respect you here, okay? We
Yeah. I respect you, and I think it's disgusting what they did to you in Pakistan. That sounded a lot more sinister than it actually needed to be.
So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Mark. I think, to me, your top three: Nisanka, Mishara, Mendes. I think at the end of the day, that's what you're hoping for, is that those guys click. One of those three guys goes big and scores 80, and then maybe you get near 200, and you can hope to defend it. The middle order is tricky. So Wella as a middle order player, I think is a good idea. And then I think you have Charith, Kusal, Pereira, and Pawan Ratnayaka. The reason why I say Kusal Pereira is, if you want someone who can actually be aggressive against spin, he's one of the few guys in this squad who can actually do it. You want someone to do what Tom Banton did and reverse sweep it, he can do that. You want him to play the slog sweep, he can do that. Do I think that's what they'll do? Probably not. The other question I think we had is Kamindu Mendes or Charith Asalanka, sort of in that middle order. I think that's a big question, and I'd be curious to hear your perspectives on that. I tend to prefer Charith. I think he has a little bit more power, but he is also out of form.
Go on, Nick. No, you go, Nick.
Okay, I was going to sit on the fence and say it's a toss-up for me. I think Kamindu's ceiling is a little higher, and I've got more faith that when he's on song, he can score runs faster. But Charith is, at this stage, more experienced, more proven. I don't think it massively moves the needle either way, which way they go on that one.
I just think, from what we've seen, is that Kamindu, I think, probably finds the boundary a little bit easier than Charith does. I haven't seen any figures on that, so maybe if someone's got the stats, they're looking at it in the. Then I'd love to see them and know them. I also think, if needed be, it's a kind of given in Sri Lankan cricket that we're going to have a lot of part-time spin. I kind of think we've got to an era now where part-time spin doesn't kind of work, because there's so traditionally, where you kind of, I say traditionally, kind of 20 years ago, what you're hoping for is that actually there's not England turn up and play the subcontinent kind of once every 2 or 3 years. They're not going to be very good on slow turning decks. Actually, you look at that England team. A lot of them spend a lot of time playing cricket in the subcontinent these days. They're not playing the IPL. They're playing the PSL. They've done it for a number of seasons. Quite a few of them have also played the BPL. If the LPL had owners that weren't trying, that had the money, then I was going to libel myself there. If the LPL had the money, they'd come out and play the LPL as well. So I kind of wonder if the whole idea of trying to hustle out, say in T20 cricket, 3 overs of part-time spin, I just don't know if that really works. And I wonder if actually, if you are going to pair Kamindu and Charith, actually you've got to take into consideration that Kamindu's probably a bit more for handful, because he just has more variation with what he's going to bowl, and if he has to bowl part-time.
My argument is actually we've gotten worse at bowling part-time spin while the rest of the world has gotten better. So you have like an Aiden Markram who will bowl regularly for South Africa. You have Will Jacks, right? You have Glenn Phillips. You have all these guys, Glenn Maxwell, who are not natural spinners. And obviously they did not grow up spinning the ball, and they are contributing maximally to the team. What it seems like is that they take a guy who is already a good batter and can roll his arm over a little bit and give him actual reps to do that, right? Whereas we kind of go about it the reverse way. And maybe that's what you're getting at, Mark, is that highlighting someone who has 2 skills is less relevant than having someone who has 1 skill and then you can kind of like add on to it. And I think the other thing with Kamindu Mendes and Charith, to talk about your boundary percentages, I think it's actually an interesting question, because they're about equal, but where they come is different. Actually, Kamindu is a little bit better against pace than Charith is. He plays the pull and the hook so well. So and Tarth is a little bit more of a spin hitter than Kamindu is. So there's that kind of thing. You know, I think we tried Kamindu at 3 and then went away from it. Not sure why, but yeah.
I got a question for you guys. Do you think that like the Premadasa paddy fields and the pitches that we've played on a lot at home have actually made like the players in our team, one, worse at bowling spin, and two, worse at playing spin on good pitches? Because like the skill set that you need on good pitches is so different, and we've played so much on pitches where like you just put it on a spot and the ball does the rest, or you're doing well if you can tick one, that we're actually haven't had a chance to practice the kind of skills that we need on usual T20 pitches.
I kind of fully buy into that theory. I think in general, if you look at it, Sri Lanka is still producing as many, if not more, good cricketers than it's ever produced. What we're really struggling at is getting those cricketers from being, all right, they can bowl overs or they can bat at international cricket, to being like exceptional at doing it, right? I'd say if you look at our side now, there's the kind of, I suppose the global impression would be there's two players who are kind of at that level, maybe 2.5, with Patham and Hasaranga being those two players. And then different people might say, depending on which cricket they're watching, I think they might say Kusal or Kamindu are kind of there, with their kind of close, or the feeling is they're close to it. And then maybe you could say kind of Patharana. But I just think the fact that our pitches are becoming so different to almost everywhere else in the world, I think it's not helping us at all. I think you can still, today's a great example of it, because if you're playing on a bad pitch or on a I don't want to call it bad, but if you're playing on a pitch like what we expect Catarama to be like, you can kind of say, let's just see off Al Rashid and we'll score runs of everyone else. When actually today what's happened is you got to, if you see off Al Rashid, you've then got to start thinking about seeing off Will Jacks and seeing off Dawson, and then suddenly you're in a real bad situation. That could have been a well north of 200 score if we knew what we were doing against, or if more of our players knew what they were doing against spin today, right?
That's totally right, Mark. I think you can't see off 3 spin bowlers. Like, that's just not an appropriate strategy. You can't just let them bowl to you. You gotta, and like, at least this is what I respected from Pawan Ratnayake. He was able to, through his trigger movements, and you know, you could argue he premeditated maybe too much. He forced them to bowl to him rather than just bowl at him. Whereas, and then even, you know, Harry Brook again against spin, he was like, okay, slow turn. I'm going to sit back in my crease and then just pump it over cover, right? Or Banton saying, okay, I'm just going to get that reverse sweep over the fielder there. There was thought process behind it. But those shots of like, how am I going to get out of this, right? And like almost everyone in the Sri Lankan side, the way they try to get out of it is the slog sweep. They tried to just slog it out of the way. But it's more than that. It's manipulating the field. It's doing all those different things. And again, Kusal, who's our best player of spin, you see him get deep in his crease, and he uses his wrist then to manipulate where in the field it goes. So it's just really shocking that on a pitch like this, where you could actually hit spin, as the English batters showed, there was no intent to do so, and nothing more than wild hoiks. Like, you look at Brook, he looked totally in control every time he hit that ball. Banton looked totally in control every time he hit the ball. And you look at Dawson, you know, when he tried to smash the wrong one, he looked totally out of control there.
I mean, that ball was a foot from where he thought it was going to be, wasn't it? And like the answer, as Dom says, is just heave across the line. And I think there's got to be a bit more of an approach than that. I don't even mind seeing someone running down the wicket and trying to get the ball on the full at this stage, because like you, at least you're trying something that's not just a wild hack.
Yeah.
And again, the only guy who I really see come down the wicket is Nisanka and sometimes Mendes. But everybody else, even Kamil Mashara, looks like he can go offside versus spin, and he's got a slog sweep, but the range of options, it's like, so if they cut off one of those options for you, it's curtains.
I just want to bring up this point from Kalunu, because I think it's quite pertinent today. Sharnika, the post-match, said it's home advantage. For that to work, we should be able to bat better than the opposition against spin. I Yeah, I think that's right. Kalinu's kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, we probably should talk about the politics of this World Cup shortly, because it looks like one of the big games in Colombo might not, at this point in proceedings, isn't going to happen. Pakistan aren't going to come to Colombo to play India, but we somewhere along the line we've just lost our way with how spin is being played. I don't know what's going on. If that the other thing I worry about, Nick, is if you look at Sri Lanka domestic cricket, there's a lot of spin being bowled, and I just wonder if it's actually just not very good spin. It's not high quality enough to really cause them problems, which is why, I mean, with this England side, the step between Adil Rashid and everyone else is huge, and I just wonder how big the step between Adil Rashid and your average domestic first class spinner in Sri Lanka actually is. Like, what kind of problems is the average guy causing?
Yeah, because from what we know of first class cricket, right, it's a lot of finger spinners who do really well, and it's generally guys who can hit the same spot over and over again and let the pitch do the work, and like that doesn't really translate to a higher level, I don't think, unless you're playing on like those Ketarama style pitches. I mean, I do feel like, yeah, we've been calling for more roads in white ball cricket for a long time in Sri Lanka, right? And I wonder whether we're going to see at this World Cup that it really has taken a toll on this team playing on such different surfaces from everywhere else for like an extended period of time now.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're exactly a week away from playing Ireland, right? We kind of got to put performance in against Ireland, because you kind of feel if we don't, if we do in Namibia against in that group, which we're going to play Ireland, Oman, Zimbabwe, and Australia, not in that order. But you're like, that is a group in theory we should come out of quite easily, but also it's a group where that could get really tricky really quickly.
Yeah.
I know the Irish have lost recently to Italy in a warm-up game, which kind of, I suppose, bodes well for us. But I also like, it's T20 cricket, right? You can lose a game in like 3 overs.
The top 3 goes, right? Like one of those, the top 3 goes quickly.
Yeah.
It could be very, and we bat first. I think that's a big problem. Obviously, the toss has not helped us in either of these 2 matches. That being said, they're both chances to win these games. I think that's part of what's frustrating, is we see that this is that this can be a quality side. The bits are there, but they are just being set up to be in a bad position. I also wanted to flag Mark and Nick, the fact that Australia has gotten pummeled by Pakistan in this T20 series, and I do not want to say this ahead of a World Cup, because we know what happens when Australia shows up in a World Cup. They put on the Superman costumes and everything kind of goes right for them. But they have looked very vulnerable against spin. Pakistan has looked really good, as they did against us. So I think all 4 games are winnable, but they are also all losable if we don't play well. And I think, my hope is that Potham kind of carries us against the weaker oppositions, and he just plunders runs freely and easily, and that they can pull it together in time. I think, as we've often said, this is a confidence side. So a few big performances will go a long way to getting this team righted. I don't think it's very enticing to say, oh, let's change this, let's change that. The truth is, they're not going to change their approach. They're not going to change how they play this far out of the World Cup. We just have to hope that the good players put on good performances.
I just want to bring this one comment up. I think it's Sadin. I can't pronounce that name. Anyway, the comment says, I don't think we'll ever be a side that bats opposition out of games. our best chance is getting to these past scores and relying on our bowlers to win us the game. There is no shame in it. Do you know what, right? If you'd asked me this at the halfway stage of the game we've just seen, I would have said absolutely agree with this. That's where we're at. Our strength is bowling. We've never had as much depth in our bowling as we have at the moment. However, today, I think I was quite shocked with the way we way we bowled after that, after the rain break, and it's kind of made me think that maybe I over-egg our bowling because our batting is just so kind of below par compared to the rest of the world. I don't know. Am I being unfair?
It was the wet ball as well today, late, and I do think if we want to be a bowling side, we've got to pick 5 bowlers. Can't be bowling dust in 2 overs in the power play. The one thing I do think Sri Lanka will have going for them is that I think Pathirana can really menace some of the less strong opposition. Especially they're going to be most of the guys in those teams won't have played him. He's bowling everything at 90. That change-up off-cut is so dangerous. I mean, he can run through teams. But I agree with Dom that first game against Ireland, it's got to be a statement win, right? If Sri Lanka even kind of eke through that, I can see this campaign kind of sliding off the rails. You want to see them win that game big and start to really build some confidence.
Kai has joined us. Shall we let him in? Hi, Kai. How's it going?
Hey guys.
Yes, Kai.
How you doing?
Well, today was a day, wasn't it? How are you feeling after it?
Still, I'm glad that DDS is out of the T20 squad for the World Cup. It's something. I don't know why Lianage's still there. I don't really know what he provides. Considering that they literally... So if you have the theory that he's in as a hitter, right? Because, I'm sorry, I know there's this whole talent thing with Asalanka, but you cannot consider Asalanka as a hitter. Towards the end, he's nothing but an anchor, really. I assume where they're batting him, they consider him a hitter, yet they brought both Dasa and Asalanka in ahead of him when they needed to hit, right? So it shows that they don't trust him to go hard at the end.
Yep.
So I'm confused what his position is. I'm a bit worried that Ishan, because apparently he's dislocated his shoulder, Ishan Malinga, who looked really good at the start today, and I think he would have been the difference if, things had played out slightly differently. So shame that that's happened. So just a little bit confused about where we're at with team selection, to be honest. Also, the Dusmanda Chamira thing with why he's not playing. I know that they're trying to rest him before the World Cup, and I know he's had his injury problems, right? But was this not the time to bring him in because he needs to be warm for the T20s, right? As a bowler, you need to be able to, bowl and play sufficient games. That's part of being a bowler, right? We heard it from Pathirana. He said, "What's made my shoulder better is bowling more in the nets." As a professional bowler, you need to be able to get stuff out your body before you play a tournament, otherwise you're not going to be fresh.
Yeah. I think, I was going to say Chamira is so important in this side, and I think it would be really good to play him this third T20, get him in some sort of rhythm. I think, as Nick said, he and Pathirana and Hasaranga are going to be our trump cards against the associate nations and against the sort of lesser nations, because the lesser test playing nations, because they are hard to read. If you haven't seen them, they can be very, very tricky. So that's kind of what we're going to have to pin our hopes on there. So I agree with you, and I think you should definitely play in that third game.
It seems strange to me that. They've wrapped him in cotton wool to the point it's almost like a neurotic mother, right? And you've got to unleash him at some point. But I guess once bitten, twice shy. I totally agree with you, really, Lianage Kai. And I thought it was strange today. The one area to me where he seemed to show solid improvement is spin hitting. So again, maybe there was a chance to send him. It wouldn't have been my first choice, but sending Dawson at 5 just seemed really weird today.
Yeah, to be honest, I was quite for it when I saw him bring him in, because I was thinking here, then there's no chance they're going to send someone else in. They're going to send Asalanka in, and we need to keep the momentum going. So I was quite happy to see Dasa in. I was slightly questioning if they sent him a bit too early because you want him in at the F. I'd say Dasa's the best hit of pace than he is of spin. We saw it of Jofra Archer, that shot into the leg side. He wants pace on the ball. just the way he strikes the ball, he likes to get his front foot out and he likes the full ball. And he likes to just be able to swing through the line. Whereas like the more risky players are going to be able to like better at the slog sweep. And it was good to see some Sri Lankans play the slog sweep, but I think we saw the difference between our sweeping ability and England's sweeping ability with Banton and Butler playing that reverse so effectively. It's just took us out the game, right?
Yeah, you know, Kai, actually, now you bring it up, I've actually was thinking, England didn't really, I think Banton might have hit one slog sweep off of Hasaranga, but they haven't used the conventional or the slog sweep over much. They've used the reverse a lot, and they've used a lot of like step hits to go down the ground, but they have not used the slog sweep. So again, that kind of perhaps tells you where we are at when it comes to finding our release shots against spin.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, no, you go
Okay.
for it.
No, you go, Kai. I was going to change the direction slightly, so you go for it.
I was just thinking about kind of arc hitting, right? And like the arcs our batters create when they hit. So like Dust is the only one you see, like you see it in his posture and his back. You see how he clears his front leg, and you see the momentum and the power he produces for his arms. Who else do we see that off, right? Times in his career we've seen it off Lanka, but not consistently. I think Chamindu Wickremesinghe was like someone we saw it off consistently, and then he got taken out of the squad. And also with him, I think he had, like, you could see his build, he had potential to bowl real pace. And I think they needed to lean into that a bit more. I know he was only like an 130 clicks bowler, but he had potential to be a lot quicker than that, right? They needed to work on him and develop that, right? And then, like, bar that, who else do we see? Lianage doesn't really have that hitting ability. And I don't think he ever will. Just like, that's a technique thing, right? Yeah. Pavan looks good today, but he's still not like a power hitter out now. He's a much more technical player who likes to use his feet and gets to the ball and clear the rope that way, which is fine. But there's like one power hitter in our entire squad for a T20 World Cup. Is, you know, you're not going to win it, are you?
And it's interesting you identified Chamindu Wickremesinghe, and I'll also add in Vishen Halambage, guys who've been in and around the squad, not really given an opportunity, and actually have that capability to clear the boundary, but have not really been given any consideration to actually be in the squad.
And I think Kamindu's another guy who's got power hitting potential, but it hasn't been like brought on at all.
Yeah, oh, God.
I was just going to say I hear the kind of Wani thing, but like he's still not an out-and-out power hitter in the same way as he. Like, you kind of need, like, with Wani, he can clear the boundary, but it's kind of in the same way Pallekele clears the boundary, right? He'll hit a 6, but it's not like out-and-out power hitting like you see from other players, like who are like specific down the order hitters. He's an all-rounder, but like an all-rounder who can hit the odd boundary, but he's more likely to use his smarts or cricketing ability to hit a boundary rather than pure kind of batting power.
Guys, if you want to come on and have a chat with us about like Kai has, you can do. I'll put the link in the chat. I wanted to bring this. Where was it? I've lost it there. I wanted to bring this comment up. It says, this is from Virtuous Joffrey, which I imagine is a Game of Thrones reference. Said, hi, what 3 changes would you make to the T20 squad? There's a lot, so just 3 is fine. Should we, Dom, do you want to go first? Because I know you've thought about this. Then Kai will get your thoughts, then Nick, and then I will adjudicate at the end, so I don't have to say much. Okay.
I'll go first. So first, I'm going to bring in Vishen Halambage for Jonathan Lianage. Second, I would bring in this is tough. I'm thinking about all the different permutations here. I'd honestly probably bring in, knowing that Malinga has injured his shoulder, I would bring in Nuwan Thushara or Dilshan Madhushanka, whichever one is healthier. And then the last guy I'd like to bring in is who Kai just mentioned. I'd like to bring in Chamindu Wickremesinghe. And then the guy, unfortunately, who'd have to make way is Pawan Ratnayaka. But I think, we have a lot of guys who are notionally batting in that 4 to 6 range. So those are my 3 changes.
I stole
Kai,
my
do you
picks.
want to go?
I was going to take Kalambagay also in front of Lianagay. I would have brought Shimindi Wickremesinghe in. I think probably looking at for Asalanka, I really I know he batted all right today, but he's still striking at 120. He just doesn't seem to be in rhythm. I'd be interested to see when his last T20 I-50 was. It feels like it was a long time ago. I might look that up at some point. Then I kind of want to bring Nuwan Tusaran as well, but if Ishan Maling is fit, I would keep him in the squad because he's a bit quick and I think he's more potential there, right? I'd rather him get the experience and the exposure rather than Tusara, who's in his 30s. And then outside of that, I'm not really sure. To be honest, with Sri Lankan cricket at the moment, it doesn't feel like with England, right? That's what annoyed me today. I was looking at that England team and I was thinking, right, it's almost a talent thing, right? It's the players they produce. I can look at this squad and say there's lots of talent here, but we don't seem to produce that kind of power, right? That kind of Banton, Butler, Brook, like standing down and hitting a 90-mile-an-hour bowler for like 6. I was just like, how do we compete with that? Like, I just can't. I think it's about the kind of first-class system moving towards playing more T20 cricket in the schools. And like I heard you guys speaking about earlier, like stuff like that, it almost needs to come from the ground up, right? And there's plenty of talent here, but to be honest, I just don't feel like this is a team which is going to win the World Cup because currently we are kind of missing players. Like, I think potentially if you bowled really well, that would be the way to do it. But Deekshire doesn't seem to be in form. Murali End, when he gets tapped, seems to lose confidence quickly. And Ishan Malinga has been, and so can Patarana, can both be quite expensive. So it's kind of hard to see. There's always going to be one bowler who leaks at the moment, is how it feels. I feel like it's, that's the changes I'd make, but I know that's probably not enough, right?
What about you, Nicholas?
Good, Kai. I echo what these guys have said. The most obvious one for me would be Lianagay out, Kalambagay in. I think if Eshan Malinga does have a shoulder injury, Nuwan Tushara would be the natural guy to come in. He played basically every T20 for Sri Lanka last year and somehow finds himself out the squad all of a sudden. Wiki, I would have loved to see, but we just don't know because we haven't seen anything of him for like the last 18 months, which would like be the point that I'd want to make was like the decision or the time to be making this decision about who we want to see is like a year ago, not now, right? And think back to that 24 World Cup, apart from Patham, who are we looking at in this squad who is better than they were now? I think that's the like biggest area where Sri Lanka are failing, right? Like you look at how much Harry Brook has grown since that last World Cup. Like why aren't Sri Lanka's players getting better? How has Theeks gone from an IPL winner to a guy who like can't seem to get into this team? I don't know. That's my tuppence.
Yeah, I hear what you guys said about Wiki and Kalambagay. I think my worry would be about kind of parachuting them into this squad because look, there's a week to go to the World Cup, and in Sri Lanka, a week is like, in cricket terms, a week is like the whole World Cup cycle in other countries, right? So be fully prepared this week. New captains, new squad. Like, Angelo might get the call this week. Who knows? I just fear that if they brought Kalambagay and Wiki into this side, that there's just not enough guidance around them. And actually, we know it's going to be really tough playing international cricket. You playing well in domestic cricket, playing well in franchise cricket is brilliant, and I want to see all Sri Lankan players do that. But we know that it's a totally different pressure when suddenly you're facing Australia in a home World Cup, right? And we know that if those guys fail, the backlash is going to be quite something, right? I'm preparing mentally for the backlash for what our boys might get if they crash out in that group stages. I almost am at the stage now where I'm like, kind of protect the youngsters. Don't let them come in and be and have that. I'm almost like, I kind of am fully on the logic of get senior players in, get Kusal Pereira in. Like if he fails, it's fine. He's already won a World Cup. So yeah, I just don't know whether like at this point, bringing Holumbergade and Wiki in is a good idea. But we know that after this World Cup, whatever happens,
DDS
unless they win it,
will come back.
I imagine. Well, DDS he's always on the verge of coming back, right? But there'll be a new coach, and there'll be a new. They're going to look at it totally differently, right? I just think if, like, for me, somebody written in one of the comments, they were like, "We're in a better position. This squad feels better than the 2024 squad." But weirdly, a week out from the 2024 World Cup, I was absolutely buzzing for it. I thought we could really go there and do damage, and it's kind of much the same squad. There's just a few of the older players who've kind of left, but the players who are left should be kind of closer to their prime. But you look at a player like Asalanka, right? And I know he's had a very weird few months since whatever happened in Pakistan, but we're talking about boundary percentages. We're talking about the way he's batting. We're talking about just a total lack of power hitting. And you're like, why is he just not developed in that same way? I remember Josh Butler when he burst out into the scene, right? He was nowhere near the player that he is now. With that, he couldn't get a boundary at will like he could now. You kind of also compare Slug to Nisanka. Nisanka makes his debut about, I think, 3 or 4 months before Asalanka does, and Nisanka's just gone in a totally different direction to the way Asalanka's gone sideways. I wonder how much of that is just Charith has just got caught up in the system.
I think in the last year, though, I would say that Charith and Patham were moving very much at the same rate till maybe about a year ago, which, Kai, that's kind of when he scored his last 50. October 24 was when Charith last scored a 50.
That's quite bad, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think, this made, I've been reflecting on this a lot. I want to, Kusal Mendes often gets so much crap in Sri Lanka cricket circles, but you got to kind of give him a pat on the back for lasting this long, improving over time in this setup. I think now it's coming into focus how rough this setup is for young players, talented players who are trying to find their way. And the fact that he has played through that and actually improved a lot as a player is props to him, and actually hasn't been mowed down by the system. I think there were times where it was very, very close to being mowed down, but the fact that he's fought through a decade of sort of the worst of the management and administration we've seen is crazy. So I think, but Mark, I am really frustrated because I thought Asalanka was on that same trajectory as Nisanka was, and he kind of got to here and then fell off, whereas Nisanka kind of has just kept going up, and it's disheartening. I think part of it is role clarity. I think he's had batting at 5 in this lineup is a really hard job. You're arresting slides all the time. You're forced to do power hitting as well, and he can't, sort of our best players have to be both accumulators and aggressors, and that's a lot to ask of multiple players, let alone one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go on, Kai.
I was going to say, I think part of it comes from it's not even this generation, it's the generation before how that was managed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think post 2014, 2015, when we have those big retirements after kind of Sangha and Jayawardena leave, and you have this next generation, there is that talent there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that power hitting ability was there, right? If you look at Chandamal, and I was about to say, I wouldn't actually be, I know you joke about it, but I wouldn't actually be that against having an Angelo in this team, right? Angelo can hit a long ball. He can bowl a bit in the power play, and he's an experienced leadership, he's a smart cricketer. That I was just thinking that mismanagement of that generation, right,
mm-hmm.
has led to those players not developing how we'd want to, and we didn't have the strong foundation coming into this generation, right? And it kind of all, it comes from that, I'd argue, somewhat.
I'm just going to add Kulini to the stage as well because he's joined us. Kulini, I'll come to you in a minute. I just on that point, Kai, that you're making, I just think you read Nicholas Brooks's fantastic book on the history of Sri Lankan cricket and Islands 11, and the thing you realise from it is that Sri Lankan cricket has been successful, kind of despite despite the administration, and also the key thing has always been like really strong leadership, right? And it's when, like, in my mind, it basically goes Arjuna to Mahela. I might have said this before. I was like, when those men are at the helm of Sri Lankan cricket, and they might not even have, Mahela went long periods towards the end of his career where he wasn't necessarily the captain, but they were able to drive the culture in the dressing room. They were able to drive the culture around the players to figure out ways in which we can build winning teams. And I just think since we've lost that kind of leadership piece in the dressing room, it's all in the change room and around the squad. It's all kind of we've regressed to being a kind of bottom, top end of mediocre on a side with a few highlights. And then you're like, any time since 2015, anytime any player has actually tried to put themselves above the parapet and grab control of it and go take control of the team, they've been mowed down. And that goes from Angelo to directly to Charatha Solanka and Dasan Chanaka right now.
And
right,
that too, right? This 2024 World Cup. That's what happened.
Anyway, Kulini, thank you for joining us. Can you say something that's going to get us excited about the prospect of Sri Lanka ever playing cricket again?
Well, I guess it's a home World Cup that's starting in a few days, right? That's the only thing I would say. We're just hopefully we're just hoping against hope. I think that's the only thing, because we are always excited for a World Cup. Whatever happens, Sri Lanka could be a dark horse in as many have predicted as well. But I think, as you guys have mentioned, if individual brilliant performances come to the fore, then it will be good for us. I mean, as a team, putting together a performance repeatedly is difficult right now. But if somebody pops off, either with the ball or bat, it's going to be a party, right, in Colombo or Kandy.
I was gonna say, so thank you finally for some optimism, Kulinu. I appreciate it. I'm
just because you asked for it. Sorry, because actually I'm not.
I kind of want to ask a question to all of you here. So Mivan Pereira says we don't have power hitters. It's not in our genes. Even Dilshan said that in a recent interview, and I want to push back a little bit against this. So one, I think there's a strong history of Sri Lankan power hitters. Dilip Mendes, right? We remember him smashing Ian Botham out the stand.
Dub. None of us remember that. We're just told about it.
Told about it. Okay, fine. There's YouTube
videos. We've heard about it.
You can watch it on YouTube. But we also have, we have Sanath. We had Desara Pereira. We had guys who could handle the long handle a little bit. And then also on top of that, I will say India is dealing with a very similar set of genetic pool that we do, and they have plenty of power in their lineup, right? You look at someone like Abhishek Sharma, he is cut from the Sanath template, right? And I think it's a
technique issue, isn't it? It's like we're not learning that technique. They need to introduce T20 cricket into schools.
Yeah,
we all know that if there was a T20 big matches played all across the island for within 6 or 7 years, that Sri Lanka would be producing more T20 power hitters than we know what to do with. Right? This is a deliberate decision by SLC. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to throw out that Nicky Puran, probably the best power hitter in the world, and he's not a big dude, right? It's not this idea that you have to be like a 6'7" brute to hit the ball far. I don't agree with it, and I don't see any reason why Sri Lanka can't produce power hitters.
Yeah,
it's a timing thing, right?
Shimron Hetmeyers of the world too, right?
Yeah, just on that, right? Yeah, sorry. I was going to say that Ishan Kishan got 100 of 43 balls.
Yeah.
He's not just not a big guy, but also he was in and out of the team, and he made himself come back to the team, and that comes back to Nick's point where our players are growing in terms of the established players as well. Because even in the times where we had super legends in the team, like the Mahela Sangas, Murali Swasas, Aravindas, Arjunas, you name it, Dilshan, Malinga. 11 players were legend, right? So we had like about 6 or 7 players at max putting their hand up per game. I know it rotated. So which means if our key players put in a performance, we have a good chance. But they seem to be slightly off color as well, like the likes of Lanka or Tikshana or even Hasranga. I know he was battling with the wet ball perhaps today, but things like that, which means that we don't have players who are growing with their own skill. And you can also, I was also reflecting on players like even Phil Salt and Heinrich Klaassen. I know Heinrich Klaassen is a physically stronger person, but if you remember the likes of Salt and Klaassen, when they came to the English or South African team, they were fringe players. They were brought in when rotation was required. But now they have developed their game, they've played around, and now like Phil Salt is even more important than Butler now at the top of the order, and Heinrich Klaassen has come and taken the team to a World Cup final and gone retired, and he's considered one of the best T20 players. So it's also to do with like players developing their game, I feel, and making sure that the good players are able to perform, and then the rest somehow supports through. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I really agree. And like to echo that is not necessarily about sort of, I thought about it a lot. I was like thinking about Sri Lanka, and obviously I know we talk about a similar gene pool to India. The big differential between us and India, right, is that India and Pakistan and Bangladesh have a lot larger population to choose from. That's always like, but again, like New Zealand have a population of about 5 million to choose from. Like, we're not the smallest country out there, right? But I'd say it's also a technical thing, right? It's how you train your players. And just echoing that point, like some of the best power hitters aren't the big guys. Like if any of you, like Quinton de Kock the other day, that wasn't scintillating innings.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
And what makes Quinton de Kock, like he hit 10 sixes, right? What makes him such a powerful hitter is his bat lift, right? He's got a nice high bat lift. And then the other thing is his just pureness of timing, right? And the way he follows through the ball. And he just needs to time it, right? And it's like, I think Rohit Sharma's, I know he's a bit like quite a big guy, right? But he's about 5'7". He's not a tall guy, right? It's great timers of the ball, even like a Chickadar, who are the guys who like hit it far. Most of the great batters aren't tall people. And like, I know we might not necessarily be like the physical biggest guys out there, but you don't need to be tall or big to hit a ball. It's all about timing and pureness of timing and your bat lift and how you hit a ball, not how big you are.
And there's a fear too, right? Like you noticed when Sri Lankan batters tried to score, it was not sort of through traditional shots, right? It was the flips behind, behind the wicketkeeper, right? Instead of saying, all right, I'm going to back myself to clear the boundary, they were scared to even try that. And, we talked about the power hitting coach coming into the side. Where's the impact of that on batters who are not Kusal, Kamal, or Patham?
Tom, on that, I think, because this is something I look at for every game, I think we're hitting more boundaries at this point than we were, say, 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to consider who the bowlers are and where we're playing as well. So, I think that Pakistan series in Pakistan was pretty difficult in terms of it was really cold out there. So, I think the conditions we were playing in were quite foreign to us.
Yeah,
you pretty much play cricket in that time of year we were in and where we were in Pakistan. That's about as cold as you play cricket in the world. You don't, like in England and Australia, you don't play cricket in the cold. I maybe in parts of northern India they do. I don't know, but I think we are starting to get it. If you look at like our not necessarily our cleanest head off the ball, but our player who fires the boundary the most at the moment is Patham, and he's actually the smallest guy on our side. Right? It's so much more about technique. I think if you're muscly, if you're a big guy, you might convert some of those falls to sixes. But in general, like it's the technique to get you to hit the ball in the first place, right? To get you in the right place to hit the ball. That I think a lot of our guys can work on. I think they're being bred to play Test cricket in a world that has, in the cricket world is leaving Test cricket behind. Test cricket in particular is leaving Sri Lanka behind. So I don't know why we're so hooked on creating these such orthodox cricketers. I don't know what your take on this all is, Nick, because you probably watch more T20 cricket than everyone else here. I don't know how much T20 cricket Kulanu and Kai watch, but
no, I totally agree with you, Marky, that I think bringing a T20 competition into schools would make a massive difference. And I think the attitude towards T20 cricket needs to progress in Sri Lanka. I think you look at the last decade and ask, have we fallen quite far behind the curve in that time? I would say so. It's not going to be an easy thing to reverse. I think it starts from the bottom and has to build up. But there's so much talent in Sri Lankan schools. I do think maybe there could be less two-day cricket played, and like a T20 cricket from under 17 level would be no bad thing.
I also think that.
Go on, Kai.
Look at the bats, right? Compared to other sides, when I saw how the Cock forgot his bat and he had to use Brevis's, and Brevis is a huge bat, right? When I look at the Sri Lankan's bat, we don't have those. It doesn't at least look to me like we have those really big bats. You see players when they get it off the toe and it flies for six. It doesn't feel like kind of Sri Lankan players are bred for that kind of thing. Like even in their bat selection, right? We don't pick up heavy bats and look to be like, doesn't matter if I don't get it completely out of the middle, it's going to go for six anyway. We don't seem to breed players like that, and that. It's almost a mentality thing as well. I feel part of it.
I think that's part of like they're being taught to play so orthodox when everyone else. I think particularly in England and South Africa, it feels to me that they are coaching them from a much younger age on how to hit big. It's almost like in Sri Lanka, losing your wicket feels so culturally like a faux pas that they don't want to do it. Where you look at like Josh Butler, he doesn't care, right? And he will go swing. You see, like I think I might be the oldest person in this call, not by much, but when I was learning to play cricket, when I was being taught how to play cricket, if you like moved your head or if you played across the line, you were like getting scolded and getting detentions and all that. And now it's totally the opposite, right? Like when you watch the best players in the world play cricket, they play across the line the whole time. It's crazy, but I get the impression. Obviously, I'm not a young child in Sri Lanka learning how to play cricket, so I don't know if this is true. But I get the impression that we're still being taught such an orthodox way of playing cricket, and you can see that like Liana Gay, right? We're frustrated with him. But he's probably there going, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm playing cricket like by the textbook, right? I'll get my ones and convert my ones into twos and occasionally twos into threes, and I'm playing beautiful strokes. And we're like, find the boundary. Come on, man. You're killing me here with your 6 runs and over. Like, sorry, I'll stop ranting.
No, I think I agree with the conversation as well. And I'm no expert on age grade cricket to say what kind of mix that we should have at the lower levels, but I also feel like we need to protect like the legacy that we have in Test cricket and other formats as well. So I'm keen to see people develop across formats. But I think this World Cup that's coming up, the result we get is almost a bonus, right? And I think we have to look at it as a reset after the World Cup. I mean, not chuck the complete squad away, but work with a wider pool of players to look at how Sri Lankan cricket can be taken forward in terms of our curve, in terms of our T20 cricket. Because I was listening to the conversation where you were looking at any changes to the squad that you want to make, but you were also second guessing because you really don't know whether the replacement is good enough than the incumbent. So that is we are here at that point because we are a week away. We are still figuring out the combination that the broadcasters, commentators were saying that we're still figuring out the conversation. Kaur was saying that, Rasan Arnold was saying that, Roshana Basic was saying that, which means everyone has faltered at some point, and we are a week away. We're still searching for the combination, right? I don't know when exactly. I mean, it's probably in 2 years' time that the next T20 World Cup is going to be there as well, right? So maybe we should really look at try and consistently giving people opportunities. I mean, it's like standard, right? To look at a strategy and then build like a pool of players with first choice, second choice, third choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, Tikshana is there, then behind that Kevin Matthew, and behind that somebody else, to back a strategy and try and see if we can continuously give the performances. Now, a lot of people are saying this squad should have been there before, or this team should have had a chance before. Right? Exactly. Like it's easy to say in hindsight, but I think we haven't backed a single strategy, and even if that fails, it's fine. Now we have changed strategy so many times, changed the squad so many times. Even if you ask me now, like how many, if I want any changes to the squad, I would say none. Just let's go with this now. let's stop now, because even the combination, right? I would like the fifth bowler to come in. I would really like an extra bowler, because we got a decent score today with another bowler, especially with a bowler getting injured, would have helped. But imagine like we right now change again against Ireland. Let's say we change to 6-5 suddenly, and then Kamil Mishara, Pathum Nissanka, and Kusal Mendy start playing like we need to anchor the innings, and Kusal, who's been playing well with a higher strike rate, suddenly doesn't get 37 of 20, but gets 37 of 30, and then we are getting like 150. So I really don't know. Let's go with like the imperfect team that is, because their limitations are unfixable by anyone, I would say. Yeah. And then let's look at resetting perhaps after the World Cup.
Guys, I think we're going to need to wrap this up. The plans on Murali End are this. We'll be live, of course, after the next game, which is on Tuesday afternoon. Then I think we're going to have to just find some time and find some religious people and do a prayer circle. At some point, we'll have all the major and even some minor religions represented on a live stream praying for Sri Lanka. Yeah, because I think that might be the only way, depending on what happens on Tuesday, that we can bring some good vibes, send some good vibes Sri Lanka's way, and then of course we will do a World Cup preview as well at some point between Tuesday and the first game on Sunday. Maybe I'm thinking kind of Thursday, Friday at this stage. Do follow if you've got to 1 hour 16 of this broadcast and you haven't hit the subscribe button. I don't know what more I can say to get you to subscribe. Try and follow us on socials as well. That really helps us to grow and get our message out there. We've been the Murali End. Thank you for watching. Thanks for participating. Thanks for everyone's comments. Thank you, Kai and Kulunu, for coming on. We'll see you on Tuesday.
It's the Murali End, you're in the place to be. Analyze the players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's the Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna win. When happy, it's we, when mad, it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket, we gon' represent. So tell a friend.